Hello, welcome. It's the Jack and Joe show. And Joe Sanson, we both said Fulham win last week, and we were right.
We were spot on, Jack. I mean, I think that we thought we would be winning in a slightly more convincing fashion. Not that we are one to complain, but it was a fantastic day out in Liverpool. It was great to see you there. We had a fun time.
Yes.
And then topped it off with 3 points in a train journey home with the entire Fulham squad. I was walking down the platform with my sister and walked past someone. It was in a Fulham tracksuit, and I was like, I recognise that bloke.
Was
Like,
he in
do I know him?
glasses?
He was not in glasses.
Oh, it's like, guess who this?
Yeah, but I think it still might be the person you're talking about because I saw a tweet and it's the Fulham analyst.
Yeah, I saw it.
He
as
was
well.
alone and someone put, let him cook. And you know what? He did cook because somehow he still escaped with 3 points. And then he signed Traore on the way home. So it was a fantastic day for him. Jack, let's get into it. Your thoughts on the game, your thoughts on the day, etc.
Yes, I will love to get into my thoughts. Before I do that, the Jack and Joe show this season is sponsored by Green King Sport. Head into any pub and catch the live Premier League action. We're not on telly yet. We wait till October against Chelsea. But Joe, we have a feast of games this weekend, including another Monday Night Football and a cracking Super Sunday. Do you want to talk us through the fixtures?
Yeah, I mean, this weekend also features the first Saturday evening kickoff of the season in Man City Newcastle, which is a huge game. Just before that's a tea time game. United going to Tottenham. Some Super Sunday games as well. I know there's a London derby involved there, West Ham, Chelsea, and then Monday Night Football, another London derby in Palace against Arsenal. So some great fixtures to pop down to a Green King pub and enjoy. But isn't it just wonderful to have the football back, Jack? And even just talking about these fixtures excites me greatly.
It's brilliant. And Everton, of course, we beat at the weekend. They play at 2:00 on Super Sunday away at Aston Villa, who got a thrashing against Newcastle on Saturday tea time, where we were on the same train. I think you were more towards the front. I was more towards the back. The squad was on. But in terms of the day, Joe, it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Lots of beer, lots of pink shirts. And I was really, really, really encouraged with the result. The performance, not so much, perhaps. It was a good one though. An away game that a lot of fans will remember. I think I left the house around 7:15, got back around 10:30 at night. So it was pretty good. Joe, we were lucky enough to have pre-drinks together, watch England versus Colombia and a bit of Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest, have a few chips from the chippy next door. Absolutely sensational stuff. Yeah. And we were 2 rows away from each other as well. And every time Everton missed a gilt-edged chance, you turn around to me, put your hands on your head like, I cannot believe we've got away with that again. It was a tough game, actually, wasn't it? I thought Everton were very good compared to when we went there last season, Joe.
Oh, 100%. And as you just said, Jack, I think I was turning around to you every 2 seconds because I've been having visions of Iwobi cutting in on his right foot all week because that's all I saw for 45 minutes right in front of us. It was a very surreal game because we all sort of went into it thinking Everton are going to be very poor. Was I think the unanimous thinking from all fans, not just Fulham, Everton fans, neutrals, etc. And it was just whether Fulham could show any of the football we did last season, minus Palhinha, minus Mitrovic from the start, etc. And we didn't do that. We were very poor. Silly mistakes. I think that it was good to see Ream come back in, but I thought he looked, to be honest, massively off the pace in the first half. I think he improved after the break, as did Fulham overall. But, Morpay versus Leno is a battle that's been waging for a few years now for different reasons. There was a point last season when we thought we might sign him. And on that display, I'm very glad we didn't because the chances he had, just like the game that you just referenced, Jack, back in April, were gilt-edged. And it was, I put on Twitter yesterday or the day before that that's the best goalkeeping display from a Fulham goalkeeper I've seen in the flesh. There were shouts for Van der Sar at Highbury. There were shouts for the game away at Newcastle where we, I think we ended up winning 4-1, but a wonderful goalkeeping display. And it's just one of those where I wasn't there for either of those. This one, to me, was just, he was sensational. And deep into stoppage time, half chances, getting behind the cross, getting Tarkowski's header, one in added time as well from potentially Keane that I think was actually offside. But, that Danjuma one, I know it was ending up offside, but when he went clean through and you hear three sides of Goodison Park rise up, and then the little half next to us and the ones above, and they're all going, come on, and you just see him loft it over Leno, at last beating him, and it trickles just wide of the post. It was an amazing feeling.
Not just wide. That was a bad miss.
It was a bad miss. But that was the theme. I don't want to come on here and just say, we were terrible, because we weren't.
Yeah.
I thought we were second best. I thought that Man United versus Wolves was actually a more lopsided game than we saw on the weekend. I just think that we weren't anywhere near our best. And we did improve massively after half time. The subs of Mitro and Andreas and Bobby Reid coming on were fantastic. But we do also have to have shout outs to other players. Again, Leno, an amazing performance reminiscent of Leicester away last season, but even better. Lukic, I thought, controlled play really well. Diop, I thought, was very solid. And Bobby Reid, as we've just said, when he came on, was electric on the left and could have got a second goal on another day. Jack, I think that it was one of those where full-time we all sort of went, okay, fine, we'll push the performance to one side. It does have to improve. I think we're all aware of that, and I think it will improve. I don't think Silva will allow them to perform like that again. But we must remember it's first day of the season away at a very, very tricky place to go, where they really get behind their team. And I thought it was a good atmosphere all around the ground on the weekend, including the Fulham end. But it's a difficult place to go when you're under the cosh. And we certainly were for that first half.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was very scary. Even in the first minute, we sort of gave the ball away with Ream down, trying to play a ball down the side, down the flank, and it got cut out, and suddenly Mopé was in. And, well, I mean, Mopé is not Everton fans' favourite, I would say. But Bobby D. Cordova-Reid definitely is one of our favourites with the winning goal. It felt like an out-of-body experience that we scored. I was thinking that is so undeserved, but we'll take it and run. And I think there was a lot of relief at full time. There were 6 added minutes, and it went over the 6. And you can all see it on the board. And we're thinking, come on, ref. And he finally blew up and got that Tarkowski header at the back post. It just all of it was just so scary. But it's done. It's done. It's 3 points. I keep looking at the table. Do we have 3? Yes, we do have 3. We're okay. Our next opponents are Brentford, who obviously on Sunday put up a stern test against Tottenham Hotspur. They were good, actually, even without Ivan Toney. And Buemo, very impressive. Visser, very impressive. Flecken, even impressive. Decent, after a dodgy pre-season. But just hopping back to the performance against Everton lastly, I think it was a reflection of what Marco Silva sort of said in the last couple of press conferences he's done. It's been a strange pre-season. And I think that starting Tim Ream, in retrospect, in hindsight, was a huge risk. I don't think he played much football. He came on against Hoffenheim, of course, but he did look shaky. And I do wonder now, as we transition into the Brentford game, I'm going to ask you for your team selection. Does Calvin Bassey come back in? I think that's a big question for the game on Saturday, Joe.
Yeah, I won't spoil my answer, but it starts with Y and ends in S. I was happy to see Ream on the team sheet when it came out at 2:00 on Saturday, but at the same time, he's played 90 minutes, 60 of those behind closed doors against Hoffenheim, the other 30 the next day against Hoffenheim when the game was sort of dying a death a little bit. He didn't have too much to do. Bassey was man of the match. He's had a full pre-season. He was raring to go. And I do think it was a strange call that nearly backfired. Ream has been a dependable servant for the club, but that was definitely one of his weaker performances. Second half, I actually thought he was okay. I don't think he really did too much wrong, but it was in those first half, particularly the first 30 minutes.
Maybe like rabbit in headlights sort of thing.
Yeah, giving it away to Maupay, slipping, not necessarily his fault, but, slipping when he was initially out of position for the Decore throw-on goal chance, which honestly, if they replay that ever, I'm going to wake up and scream, because he was on the ball for what felt like an hour, picking his spot, and I couldn't believe it when Leno saved it. Let's get on to the Brentford game, Jack. And before we speak about team news, we will have a new addition, at least one new addition, because at the time of recording, we haven't signed anyone since this, but things can obviously change very quickly in football. And we saw this over the weekend when Friday morning, we hadn't really heard of Adama Traore for quite some time, definitely not in a Fulham linked sense. And suddenly the Athletic report it, as do a few others. And then the next day on the way home, he's announced as a Fulham player, which just shows that Fulham and other clubs will always be working on signings in the background that we can't see. Now, Jack, my first thought is on a free. This is a great deal. It's Premier League proven player that is a very different profile to the other wingers that we've got. Explosive strength and pace. Basically the hench Dan James, as we could call him, which is fantastic. And you just think that when a game gets a bit stretched and we're playing on the transition, he's the ideal profile of player you want coming off the bench. You want someone that is going to push teams back. As we've seen previously, his end product's not always been great. I know he scored that goal against us. We don't need to mention it too much.
No.
His end product has left a lot to be desired over the years. But the fact is, he puts fear in teams with how fast he is and how quickly he can catch you out. And that in itself will make teams push back a little bit because they don't want to be caught out by him in behind. What are your thoughts on this deal, Jack? And have you got any comments in particularly from a Jimenez partnership point of view?
Well, all the Wolves fans are devastated. It feels like this is the second summer in a row we've sort of ruined their summer after the Paulinho saga. It wasn't a saga as such, but anyway. I will reference a game that happened a few years ago. I can't pinpoint the season. Manchester City versus Wolves. The game is 0-0 heading into the final 10 minutes, I think. Adama Traore scores a brace, I think. Yes.
Yeah,
he did. And wow, that's the sort of
by the way, sorry to interrupt. Guess who set both of those goals up?
Raul Jimenez.
Could
have been anyone else.
2nd of September, anyone?
Look. Yeah, no, honestly, Man City away, that's going to be a good one. So that's the sort of impact he can make. Every time he comes on a pitch of which I'm watching a game against Fulham or be whatever game I'm watching and Wolves are playing, fear strikes into me like Voldemort being hit with the Horcrux. Do you know what I mean? Like complete weakness in my body because I know he's going to strike fear into me and the defenders he's running at. Sorry, I'm on a bit of a Harry Potter craze right now, so I'm just referencing it every moment I can. Back to the football. We saw him this time last year. We went to Wolves away. It was very hot. And he came on for the final, I think, 15 minutes or 10 minutes. It was 0-0. And I was thinking that is probably the worst player you want coming on against you right now in this heat, in this sort of atmosphere. And he did nothing. But that doesn't mean he's not going to do anything at Fulham. I think that's a smart signing on a free. And Marco Silva, I've said it billions of times now, it gets the best out of players that we're not really sure of. If he gets a bit of an end product, we've got a player on our hands. He is a handful. I can't wait to watch him. And I want him to be involved. I think, is he an impact sub? Yes. But I wouldn't be upset if he was starting, Joe. It's another wide option. He's a good player. I'm excited. Very exciting.
Yeah, it's another right-wing option because, let's face it, at the moment, we've got Harry Wilson and we've got Bobby Reid who can fill in on either side. On Saturday, obviously, he played on the left and did very well. We need another winger. Silva referenced that, and it sounds like that will be Hudson-Odoi or Damari Gray. From the way he phrased the interview, it sounded like it won't be both, but never say never. We did lose a few. So I would say that, how to put this? I would say it would be great to have another option in for Brentford, but our bench is already going to be stronger than it was on Saturday with the addition of Adama Traore, with the fact that Paulinho will hopefully be back for the game. We don't know, but definitely more likely than he was to be involved at Goodison Park. I think we've got one more thing to touch on before team news, Jack, which is the cloud that still hangs over the Alexander Mitrovic situation. And it was a relief to see him play on the weekend, especially when he got up from that knock. He certainly didn't look like a player that didn't want to be there. He gave his all. He looked good, held it up well, nearly scored a goal, nearly won a penalty. God help us if we'd have been given a penalty. I would have been out of the ground and back in Stanley Park quicker than you could have said, Penref, because I do not want to see it. That being said, the rumours are that Saudi Arabian club Al-Hilal are going to bid again, or have bid again. Deal apparently in place for around £46 million if Fulham choose to accept it, which they haven't, but they haven't rejected it. And every other bid was instantly rejected.
Oh,
what are your thoughts?
That's wiped the smile off my face. If you could ever say anything, it would be something like that. It does feel as though the fan base are sort of transitioning into an acceptance that maybe this might be the right way to go. And I'm not necessarily on board with that necessarily, but people are saying things like his ankle's not, what it was. He's still got those issues. We saw it on Saturday. He was on crutches coming off the train at Euston, which, by the way, that was brilliant. When all the fans came off the train at Euston, I've never seen such a Fulham takeover at a train station ever in my life. That was brilliant. So I don't want him to leave. I still think he's got a lot to give us. I think he's our main striker. I think he's hard to replace. I think Jimenez did okay, hit the post, but in terms of that presence that Mitrovic has compared to Jimenez, it doesn't add up for me. It doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence that he's going to get 14, 15 plus goals. I could be wrong. But £46 million is a lot of money, and we could use that money to replace. The frustrating thing about this is the more it rumbles on, the less time we have to actually use that money to get in a striker. And what sort of striker are we going to try and even target? Are we going to target a similar build to Mitrovic, or a different sort of striker who likes to get in behind with a bit more pace? And I do have this feeling, Joe, that we're going to be sitting here at the end of the month or the beginning of next month on deadline day on our stream, and there's going to be a lot of activity because it's just not done yet. What do you feel like? Are you on board with this whole, maybe it is time to actually, cash in?
Not completely, no. I do see the benefits of it. But I think more than anything, I'm seeing that we currently have Alexander Mitrovic, and we saw on Saturday firsthand, a lot of people, including me, have given it the big, we don't need him, we'll sell him, we'll get someone else. We are a far, far better team with him on the pitch, and that is not up for debate. And we need to replace him with around 15 goals if he does go, which is very, very difficult to do. They also have to fit the system, because Vinicius doesn't fit that exact system, as doesn't Jimenez. And, you saw that in the first half. You saw that last season when Vinicius, adequately filled in, but not to the same level that Mitrovic offers. We want around 50 million for him. That's a lot of money, but at the same time, to get an adequate replacement, we're probably going to have to be blowing a lot of that on it. And the question is who? And I can't see a profile right now that perfectly fits what we need. I've seen shouts for Balogun. He's never, ever proved it at a top level, because I'm not including Ligue 1 as a top level. And Ketia is another one, but I think it would cost a hell of a lot and is not the same profile. It's a really, really tough one. There's strikers from abroad. Will they work? Because this has to be a replacement signing that has to work. This is not a project signing. So for that reason, no, unless a silly bid comes in, and by that I mean above our asking price, anything 55 million plus, I'd probably accept. Maybe wouldn't class that as silly money, but just a respectable bid if he really, really wants to go. I think if he was 100% set on leaving, he wouldn't have been involved. I do think he probably is interested in moving away, because there's no smoke without fire, and he didn't train for quite some time. But I don't think he'd be 100% certainly leaving the club if he played on the weekend. And I think that's also evident in the way that Fulham haven't yet accepted this bid. Maybe they're talking to him about it and seeing what his opinion is first, because he's under contract at the club and Marco Silva clearly values him. I think for the sake of this next bit, Jack, we should do two scenarios, which will probably be very similar, bar one player, of let's assume that Mitrovic is still here at the weekend. and then one if he isn't. And I think that it will still be quite simple to make the teams. But what lineup would you go with against the Bees?
Oh, Leno in goal. Cannot drop him, obviously. Robinson, Tete on either side. Bassi comes in for me with Diop. And then, well, Paulinho said he was back, but I don't know if he's going to be ready. So Lukic, Reed, I would start Pereira. Definitely. And then Willian didn't really get me going on Saturday. He got a yellow card. I get that's why he got taken off at half time. I'm just chuckling because I remember Silva saying that he's going to be much more aware of the rules and he gets a yellow card at the opening day of the season. Willian Wilson, and I think Jimenez will start at the weekend. And Mitrovic will maybe come off the bench. That's my team. What about you?
Yeah, very, very similar. Defense exactly the same would bring Bassi in. Midfield the same would bring Pereira in. Obviously, I think I speak for both us when I say if Paulinho is fit, we'd start him. I guess the question is, because I agree with your front line as well, I'd probably stick with Willian, but I'd be fine with Bobby Reed starting off his great cameo.
He was brilliant.
And I think Jimenez will start. And I saw a few comments saying, Jimenez wasn't great. I disagree. I just think that he couldn't quite get into the game as much as he wanted. Still nearly scored a great goal. So yeah, I'd roll with him again for another week. Here's the question. If Paulinho is back, who does he start instead of?
Oh, that's so tough because Lukic was so good. But that is the settled three of midfield. I actually wouldn't feel very comfortable if we had Paulinho, Lukic, or maybe I would actually. I don't think we've ever seen that combination before, Paulinho alongside Lukic.
I think we only did in the cup game against Leeds when we won 2-0.
But Harrison Reed just put in a really solid performance as well. We play 4-4-2. Reed on the wing because he loves to drift wide, but
dearie me,
sounds heinous.
I would not be coming through the turnstiles.
Oh, we've got to do a score prediction for Brentford.
Yes.
It's a big derby. We haven't even like acknowledged it. It's the big derby. It's the big game, and we beat them last season, and we're 2 points above them in the table.
Not that we're counting.
No.
And by the way, if we lost, we're definitely not counting.
No.
It's a great chance because obviously we've got two really tough games after this where we've got trips to the Emirates and to the Etihad, where even the most optimistic Fulham fan is probably coming to the realization that 0 points from those two is a very real possibility, potentially even probability. So I think for that reason, this has got to be a game we go out and target to get 6 points on the board early doors. And, we've got to beat the teams in and around us and below us at home. I think that we will beat them at home. Ooh. I think that we'll see an improved performance. And I think that we will beat them 3-1. I'm going with that same prediction again. And I think that the 1 is because we can't ride our luck too much. I think we'll let 1 in.
Yeah, sure.
But the 3 is because I fancy us to really show a bit more attacking this time. And I think that we can, go 2-1 up and then pick one off them in the break with someone like Traore coming on right at the end of the game, burst of pace, something like that. That'd be lovely.
To seal it. Oh, 3-1. That's a lot of goals for Fulham. Yeah, I do think we'll take the game to Brentford. I'll be interested to see how Brentford sort of set up away from home because I thought against Tottenham, they really stepped it on them at points in that game and they were really good. So I'm not as optimistic as you. I'm not going to lie. I think I will back a 2-1 win. It won't be a last-minute Lindsay Lohan like it was last season. I think it will be more... Actually, Fulham go 2-0 up in the 80th minute. Brentford get one back. And it's a horribly nervy finish with like 10 added minutes. And Fulham just about see it out. Imagine 6 points from 2. I did not expect that coming into this season. It's not necessarily going to happen. But, Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk Fulham with you. And after the first game of the season, a pub session with you, watching the game with you, basically, and talking on the Jack and Joe show about a Fulham win and a clean sheet on the opening day.
Wonderful. Yeah, I've loved it, Jack. Loved Saturday, loved today, and hopefully love Saturday coming as well. We said last week, I think we both have taken 4 points from these 2 games. Don't get me wrong, I'd be a bit disappointed to draw the Brentford game now that we've won the first one and we're at home, but I think that would still be a respectable return. But what an amazing start to the season! 6 points from 2 games would be.
I do wonder after that Michael Keane incident, the goal, that maybe something might not go our way in the next couple of weeks, but you never know. I mean, with VAR, you can't. Again, we're still in 23, 24, and I'm still questioning the referees after last night's shenanigans at Old Trafford. Joe, that's it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks a lot, Jack, and thanks everyone for watching.
Oh, guys, the support on the channel for this season has been phenomenal. We're only on match day 1. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to be back next week to discuss the game against Arsenal. Is that right? Yes.
That's right, yeah.
So it's Arsenal, then it's City, then it's an international break. That's how it works.
Arsenal, Tottenham, City, international break.
We have got Spurs in the Carabao Cup. Tickets are going to be on sale soon. Yes. So thanks very much for watching. And come on, Fulham.